Hey guys, welcome back. I need to paint one more rim, and I want to repaint the hoop that goes on the Continental kit. I started to wet sand it and I found a spot that I didn't like, and it was up by the top. So I just sanded the whole hoop down with 800 grit. I went through the area I didn't like just to smooth it out, and I'm going to reshoot that when I reshoot the rim. Now, I have an old rim here that I'm going to have to sandblast. I have a tire on it. We're going to see if this manual tire machine, I've used it before, we'll see if we can break the bead and get this off of the rim, and then I can go outside and sandblast it. Then I'm just going to do epoxy primer on the rim, spray paint the black side of the rim black, and then just paint the top side body color. When I paint this body color, I'll repaint the hoop, which the hoop needs just a little bit of blending, and then the rest of it's just clear coat. So I'm going to cut the valve stem off of here and let the air out. See if we can get this off. Pretty rusty, so I don't know how bad it's going to be stuck on there. This is usually how I'll take tires off to paint them. When I finish my back building over here, I'm going to probably buy a used tire machine. I'm not going to waste money on a brand new one because I don't do it enough. But it'd be nice to be able to put new tires on, you know, and not have to. I just got my stitches out of my knee today, so I got to try to still take it easy for the next couple weeks. Then it'll be time for my MRI to see if my cartilage is repairable or not. So let's see if we can't get this off the rim. This is one of the hardest parts, is getting the tire off the rim. At least breaking the bead on it. You can buy these for like 50 bucks at Harbor Freight. I think I actually got this from like Tractor Supply a couple years ago. And I think at the time it was more money than 50 bucks. I think Harbor Freight has them on sale for like 50. Definitely tight. Alright, I'm going to work that around the bead and see if I can break it loose. I'm not going to sit here and videotape it because it might take me 20 minutes to break it off the bead. But I have little anchors flush mounted in the concrete, and what I do is I just bolt this to the concrete when I get ready to use it, and then when I take it out, the anchors just stay on the ground. So let me see if I can pop the bead, and then I'll come back and show you how I spin it off the rim. Okay, I got the first side bead taken off. Now I need to see if I can break the other side. Definitely was rusty. A lot of corrosion in there. So I'm gonna have to make sure I clean that real good. Oh cool, the back one popped as well. Okay, good. So now we can get it up on here and see about spinning it off the rim. See how hard that's gonna be. All right, let's see if we can get this off of the rim now that we have that bead broke. This is the hard part, trying to get this up over the edge of the rim, especially on an old worn out tire like this one. It wasn't too bad. At least that part wasn't too bad. should have bolted this down a little tighter. You can see how worn out this tire is. It's literally cracking. It's falling apart as I'm trying to spin this off. I'm gonna have to go grab a pry bar. It's so bad that my hook is actually stuck on a piece of tire right there. Usually they're not this bad. Might have to get a hammer even. Jesus. The rims also has some bends in it. I'm gonna have to hammer them straight. All right, I'll mess with this and I'll come back once I get this first bead off. As soon as I turn the camera off and put the bar back under there, pretty much snapped off. All right, that's one side. Now we gotta try to get the other side. Oh, there's an inner tube in here. Huh. That's because of how cracked up this tire is. They inner tubed it. That's crazy. That inner tube's kind of getting in my way. Yeah, that inner tube's gonna fight me the whole way through. Unless I can get it out of there. I can't say that I've personally ever dealt with an inner tube in a tire before. Not a full-size tire. Lawnmower tire or something like that, yeah, but not this. Okay. Some of the problem is these big dents in the rim. My bar is hitting on them. I know as soon as I turn off the camera, it'll pop off. If you look here, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, this edge is so chewed up that the bar is gouging into the tire and then not wanting to rotate. Can't believe somebody drove on this thing. Yeah, it just keeps digging in. All right, I'll stop the camera so I can get it off. All right, I got it. The problem I was having is the bolts were coming out of the floor because I didn't have long enough bolts today. I must use the longer bolts that I normally use, but I got it. I got to get some longer bolts, but we're off. And that tire and rim is disgusting. So now I'm gonna go set up outside. We're gonna sandblast this down. Look at how corroded that is. I mean, this tire was basically rusted to this rim. So let me go get this stuff set up and we'll sandblast this. Okay, I'm all set up outside. I just put another bag of, it's called Black Diamond Abrasives. It's just coal slag, and I'm using 1/8 inch. So I'm using a fine one. My sandblaster can't handle the 2040, the 1/4 inch. My nozzle is not big enough to handle it. Plus, the 2040 is just too rough. It really etches the metal. This stuff does a pretty good job. So I'm gonna get this set up on the tripod, put on my coat, and then we're gonna go out there and blast that rim. After that, we're gonna put a coat of epoxy primer on it. Then I'm gonna spray paint the back side. Then we're gonna paint the front side. I did beat the dents out of the rim, out of the outer perimeter, straighten them back out. So I'm gonna get my hood and my glasses on here. And let's see how bad this is. Might take a little bit. I only picked up 1 bag of sand, so, and there was still a little bit in the sandblaster, so there's probably between 60 and 80 pounds in there, so hopefully that should be enough. I gotta tighten my thing real quick. All right, I'm gonna finish this off camera. I'm not gonna sit here and record this whole thing getting sandblasted. Okay, I have the rim hanging. I wanna put some epoxy primer on that first. And then after that, I'm going to spray the backside with a matte finish, just spray paint. And then once that sets up, I'm just gonna lay the rim down flat and just paint the top side, the body color. I ordered a bunch of new cups because the other PPS cups that I have these are 20 ounce. And I was having a hard time finding the 27 ounce cups, but I found them, so I ordered 4 cases of them. I actually have another holder coming, which I'm just gonna mount right next to this one, and that'll hold the bigger cups. The lids are the same, so the lids are gonna fit from one cup to the other. It's just the size of the cup. Because sometimes I'll go to put a coat of clear, like let's say I'm doing doors and fenders, and with the 20 ounce cup, I'll get, I don't know for sure, but I'm just saying, I'll get like 2 doors and a fender, and then I gotta go mix up more clear, or I gotta use 2 liners to do it. So by having the 27 ounce cups, I'll be able to get more done. You know, I'll be able to do all 4 parts without having to stop and switch the cup or waste another liner. So what I'm gonna do first is mix up. I actually haven't been painting in a while because I've been busy and surgery and everything. So I need to put this on the mixer. This is just an Omni, it's made by PPG. It's just their cheaper line. This is an MP170. This is a straight epoxy primer. This is not an epoxy primer sealer. This is just straight epoxy primer. We're gonna mix this, it gets mixed 2 to 1. I'm probably gonna put 5% reducer in it just to thin it a hair. We're gonna put a good even coat on all of the rim, all surfaces of the rim. And then after that, we'll let it dry for about 15-20 minutes, and we can put the black on the back. We'll let that dry for another 15-20 minutes, then we can lay the rim down and we'll do the blue, and then we'll do the blue on the hoop. I'll show you the spot on the hoop too. Now, I'm gonna let this mix for a good 10 minutes because it's been sitting for probably 2 months since I've painted something. Trying to think here. Oh, the reason why I take the tires off myself when there's something like that is for me to go get the tire taken off, especially just for one, it's a 20-minute drive. Wait there for half an hour, however long it takes for them to do it, and then they're 20 minutes home. So I'm gonna be wasting like an hour, hour and a half of my day to go get a tire off. So the 15 minutes I spent wrestling getting it off, to me, is worth it, because then I don't have to worry about driving there and back, spending money to have it removed, because the tire's garbage anyway, so it doesn't matter. So that's why I have that little tire machine. Like I said, eventually I'm gonna get one. I'll just buy a used tire machine, and I'll buy a used balancer, and I'll put it in the back building. Then I could just do the tires myself and not have to worry about going places, because I just had that tire changed on that one rim on the 59 a couple weeks ago, and that was almost $30 to take a tire off of one rim, put it on another rim, brand new tire, and balance it and put a new valve stem in. It was like almost $30. I couldn't believe that. So it would definitely be worth it for me to just do it on my own. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a little bit of epoxy mixed up after this mixes for about 10 minutes, and then we'll put a coat on. The spray booth is still pretty cold. It was 50 degrees in there, it's already up to 60. So I'm heating it up in there. I only have half the lights on. I actually have a pickup truck bed for that white truck sitting in here. Now, once, next week, I'm probably gonna paint the spray booth and repaint the floor, and then I'm gonna change the exhaust filter. Now, when I get all the painting done and I take the old exhaust filter out and do all the painting, I'll do a video on how I built that spray booth and how it works. With the exhaust filter out, I can show you the fans that are in there, and then I can show you how I heat it and all that stuff. So I'll do that when I get the spray booth all painted, because then I'm going to be switching that filter out and everything, so I can just show you what it looks like and how I set everything up. There are 2 fans. They're both explosion-proof fans, so they can handle the overspray that goes there. It doesn't really get a lot of overspray because my exhaust filter pretty much grabs it all. A little bit will go through, which is like that with any spray booth, but for the most part, it gets probably 90% of it. what was I gonna say? And then the heater, I'll show you how I have that piped into here and how it works. And what size the fans are and everything like that, and how I figured out the formula for air movement and all that stuff. So, all right, let me pause this. I'll get some sealer mixed up. We'll put a coat of sealer on, and then we will wait for the black. One more quick thing while I'm letting this mix up. The reason why I use these liners is because whatever base coat's left, you can pour it back in your container because it can be reused. It doesn't have a hardener in it. But you have to remember that when you pour it back in there, if you pour a lot in there and you do it multiple times, that you're going to want to reduce that less and less because you're throwing the reducer back into your color. When you spray clear, filler, primer, sealer, anything like that, whatever's left in the cup, you just leave it out. You know, leave it out. You can leave the lid on it and just leave it out. And what happens is it dries. Once it dries to a solid, you can throw it away. Plus, there's a lot less cleaning involved. You're going to go through a lot less lacquer thinner because you're not cleaning a cup. You don't have to clean a spray gun cup or a mixing cup like these. So you're not sitting there mixing into this and then having to rinse this out with lacquer thinner. Then you have to pour all that old lacquer thinner into a container, and then you have to dispose of it properly, you know. And then when I clean my spray guns, I use the spray gun cleaning cabinet right here, which does a really good job. My clear gun, I do not run in the machine. So this machine, this is what I use. It holds 2 guns at a time. You can clean 2 guns in here at a time. You have to tie the trigger open. This pumps the thinner through the gun and it comes out there. And I run it 3 to 4 times. When I clean my clear guns, I just clean them in the air here, and I just use this bottle here, which is lacquer thinner, because I don't want to put the clear gun through this system, because if there's any sort of a metallic or anything that gets into your clear gun, you know damn well when you go to put the clear on something, you're going to end up with like a piece of red metallic or something stupid in a blue paint job. You know what I mean? So you don't want to do that. And I've noticed with this system, since I bought this a couple years ago, this holds a 5-gallon jug of thinner down there. And what happens with this is all your solids go to the bottom. There's a pickup tube that goes in there, and it has a sock on it, so it doesn't allow you to bring the hard products back up. Now, after depending on how much you paint, if you paint a lot every couple months, what happens is the thinner that's left in there, you'll keep using it, and then it just evaporates. It's gone. And then the bottom of that can just dries out, and you can get rid of it. If you don't have that and you don't do that, you know, you got to dispose of that properly. You can't just take that and throw it in the garbage. You're allowed to throw away the dry product. You're not allowed to throw away any liquid, you know, and you don't want to burn it or anything like that. So you have to take it to a place and dispose of it, which is fairly expensive. So I switched to this. This is like a $1,500 setup here. I think it was maybe a little bit more, I'm not sure. But what it's going to save me in disposal fees is well worth it, you know. And also buying those liners, these here, you get 50 of them. The bigger ones were like $60 for 50 of them. You get 50 liners, lids, and caps. They also give you caps that are these little caps here. So let's say you're base coating some parts and you have some base coat left over, but you still got to do some more base coating the next day. You could just leave your base coat in the cup with the lid on it and just stick this little topper in here like this, and it snaps in just like that. And you can leave that in there overnight. Next day, come in, take the lid off, mix it up, and use it again. So you can reuse that liner. Obviously, clears and reducers and stuff, or clears and primers and stuff are going to dry no matter what in the cup, so obviously you can't save those. But for what these cost, for what it saves in waste and disposal fees, it's definitely worth it. Like I said, the smaller ones I think are, sorry about that, I got interrupted and I don't really remember what I was talking about. But anyways, yeah, like I said, you know, I really like this setup, just like save on disposal. All right, that epoxy is done mixing, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix them up and we'll go put a coat on out there. show you this hoop. Now, having this bed in here, I'm not worried about getting overspray on it because the exhaust fan is taking it all that way. Not a lot of overspray goes that way. It all blows this way. And I only have half the lights on in here right now because that's all I need. But there was a little spot on here that I didn't care for right here. So I sanded it down and I hit the primer a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some clear binder, which is just clear base coat, and we're going to put some on here. And then we're going to take the color and we're going to blend it out right there, and then we're going to re-clear this. But I got to get black paint on the back side of that rim first. So I'm going to go get the spray gun cleaned out. This is already drying pretty fast. This rim looks like crap. It's all pitted real bad and stuff. But it's going in the Continental kit as the spare tire. And nobody ever uses them, so it's not a big deal. But it is going to be there with a new tire on it in case somebody does need to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and get cleaned up, and then we're going to put some black spray paint on the backside. This is what we're going to use to paint the backside of that rim. Krylon Fusion 5-in-1. This is paint and primer all in one. The reason why I'm just using spray paint is there's epoxy primer on there, and epoxy primer is a really good coating. And you can honestly just leave epoxy primer and it's not going to rust for a very long time. So let's go put some black on the back of that rim, and then we'll let that dry. Okay, that'll be dry in about 15 minutes. I actually have the heat cranking in there. 90 degrees right now in there with the fans going, so it's pretty warm. I normally wouldn't paint parts that warm, but this is just a rim and a little hoop, and I just wanted to get them done and dry. So I'm gonna let that set for 15 minutes, come back, we'll set it down on a stand, and then we'll put a clear binder over that hoop, which is, let me see if I can find it here. It's just an inner coat clear. They use this stuff, as I'm not showing you the right thing. This is just an inner coat clear and binding. What it is it's like base coat without any color, and it's just clear. And the reason why we want to put this on the painted hoop already, because when you put more metallic paint over top, if you don't put this on there, you'll see sanding marks. Even though I use 800 grit, you could possibly see sanding marks in your metallics. Your metallics might not sit normal because it doesn't have this underneath it to kind of smooth it out. So we'll put a light coat of that on, and then we'll be able to put the color on. Okay, I'm going to mix up a little bit of this Intercoat Clear, just a little bit, and we'll go put a coat on there. I use wax and grease remover, and I already wiped down that part, and I have the rim sitting on the bucket. I'm not going to do anything with the rim. We're just going to put some of this Intercoat Clear on the hoop for now, let it dry for a few minutes, and then we'll be able to put the color on. And this is just a, you can do a 1-to-1 mix. This is a little bit thinner, so I do a 2-to-1 mix. Actually, I think this one requires 2-to-1 mix. So we're just going to mix up enough to put a light coat on it. So all we're doing is filling in any sort of sanding marks or anything like that so that our metallic will lay flat. I'm just going to use this paint stick that already has blue paint on it because it's the same color I'm using on it anyways. So I'm going to go out there and we will go get a coat on this. Okay, now I'm running kind of low on the color for this car. All right, so what I'm going to do is, let me grab some blue. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this blue paint. It's not the right color, but what we're going to do with it is we're going to put the first coat on the rim with this blue, and then we'll go over it with the correct one. Now, the leftover material in this cup, I'm going to leave it in here. We're just going to pour the blue into this. It's not going to hurt anything. Now the clear, or the color that I use for the car is Spies Hecker. This is the color I use for the car. This takes its own reducer. So you don't want to put this into that, but I can put this into that. I don't trust putting this into that because I don't know if this will act up or not. But I don't have a ton left, so I want to make sure that I save as much as I can by using some of this to give it the blue color, sort of what it's got to be color-wise. So I'm going to go ahead and mix some of this up, and then we'll go out there and we'll put a coat on the rim. Also, I don't need to rinse out the spray gun because we didn't do anything but ran some clear base coat through it. So I'm going to put some of this in there and then add just a little bit more reducer, and we can go get a good coat on that rim to turn this rim at least blue. And then the other color should hide over top of it pretty darn quick. And whatever's left over, I can just throw it back in this container. Even though it has that clear binder in there, I'm not worried about it. I'm actually not even going to add reducer. It's pretty thin. The reason why I'm not worried about it is this is just leftover paint, and I just use it for situations like this where you're running low on something. Get it to the color close to what you're going, and then use the color you need over top. It just saves you on material. It gives you a way to get rid of your old material as well. Long as you put the new color, the right color on top with enough coats of paint, You'll never have an issue. Now let's say you put this down and you only blew one coat of that color on top and you panel painted your car. You can run into a problem where it doesn't match because some of this color could be bleeding through that color because you only put one coat. So just because you put this on there doesn't mean you can get away with one coat of that. You still want to do at least 2 coats. So let's go out there and put a coat on the rim while that clear coat is drying on that hoop, which is just about dry. Okay, now I've got to let that set for about 15 minutes. I'm going to clean the gun this time because you do not want to put that other color through a gun that has this color, because then if you want to put me back in your can, you won't have the right color at that point. But this, like I said, I'm just going to dump this back into here and get that gun clean, and then I'll be back and we can put the color on the hoop. And then we'll be ready for clear. We're only putting 2 coats of clear on, nothing major. We don't need any more than that. Okay, I'm ready to mix up this paint here. This is a, I forget, 4-to-1. I believe it's 4-to-1, because this actually is more than, I'm sorry, it's 1-to-1. This is more than a gallon here. This stuff is extremely expensive. I think this gallon of paint with this reducer was $1,200. But I was using PPG at the time, and they could not match this color for this car to save their lives. They tried 3-4 times. I actually painted a couple parts the wrong color, and it was totally wrong. This guy, the guy that mixed this, got it spot on. I actually had a piece of this color car from another one that I did some wheel skirts and a spare tire well for. The guy had brought me a lower valance and we used that, and he was able to match the paint perfectly. So I no longer use PPG because that's not the first time that's happened to me. That's probably the 3rd or 4th time that they've mixed up something and it doesn't match. And the best part is they don't want to give you any money back. You know, and then they, oh, we'll make it right, and then they try to make it right and it still doesn't match. So, you know what, it's just not worth it. I think $1,200 is a bit on the high side, but I mean, a 59 Impala is a high dollar car, so I guess you have to take the good with the bad. You can't go putting $300 paint on there that's not the right color, you know, to save $900 when you're doing a car like that. So you just have to bite the bullet sometimes and deal with it. Now this, I'm not really going to scale exactly because it already has a little bit of reducer in it, and I could tell by how thin it is. Usually if you mix it and you hold it up, you can see how much it's dripping. That's a pretty good indication on how thick it is. I've mixed it for long enough to kind of know where I want it to be, and that looks pretty good there. So we're going to go out there and we're going to blend that hoop area, which unfortunately I can't really show you because it's kind of hanging upside down. Also, if you noticed, I grabbed the new paint stick because I didn't want to use that other one because it had that other blue paint on it. So I'm going to go ahead and get the gun out of the washing cabinet. We are going to get a coat blended onto that wheel hoop, and then we'll put a coat on the rim. first coat. And as you can tell how quickly that covers because it already had that other blue underneath it. And that blend, I'm only doing the blend area. The spot is about that big, and I'm gonna blend it probably about 6-8 inches around it. I'm not gonna put a coat on the whole hoop, it doesn't need it. So we're gonna let that set for about 10 minutes, and we're gonna throw another coat on, clean the gun, get some clear mixed up, and then we'll put 2 coats of clear on, and then these will sit here to dry. I'm not gonna bake them tonight. They can hang here all day tomorrow. I don't need the spray booth. So we'll just let them dry, and I can work on the passenger window and stuff tomorrow. Okay, I have some clear in the gun here. It's a 4-to-1 mix, and I added 10% reducer just to thin it out a little bit. Now, that base coat's been drying for a good 10 minutes. You want to make sure, especially on your blends, that your base coat is completely dry, because if it's not, and it's still wet, when base coat's wet, it could be blotchy. If it's blotchy and you put clear over it, you have a really good possibility of it staying blotchy looking even after it dries. So make sure you give it a good amount of time to dry. I turn the heat down a little bit in there. It's about 85 degrees now. I'm using a medium hardener in my clear. If I were painting a car at 85 degrees, I would be using a slow hardener with a slow reducer. What that's going to do is give your clear more time to flow out before it starts setting up. If it's 85 degrees and you use a fast hardener and a fast reducer, what's going to happen is you're going to be spraying it on that panel, and it's going to want to dry on you, and it's going to stay textured because it doesn't have enough time to flow out. It'll literally dry before it's done flowing out. Now I'm using, for the clear, man, this thing don't want to go on. I'm using a Sada Jet 3000 with a 1.3 tip. Man, does that not want to go on there? All right, let me get this on here, and then we will go and put a coat of clear on. All right, the first coat is on. I'm shooting at about 28 PSI, and I am using my fan wide open on the gun. So my fan's wide open, I'm about 28 PSI. The best way to determine your pressure in your fan, I always like to have the fan open as far as possible because it gives it the most, it gives you a big spray pattern, and your air pressure has a huge amount to do with it. If you hang a piece of paper in your spray booth, your wall, your garage, wherever you're painting, shoot your gun about 8 to 10 inches away from that piece of paper and see what your spray pattern looks like. If you have a nice solid oval, big oval, you're good to go. If you have, let's say, a big oval, but like the center's kind of light, that means you have too much air pressure. So you want to dial your air pressure down, and it makes a huge part of how it's going to turn out in the end. And also on your first coat of clear, don't go hammering it on. Like, you want to make it look as flat and smooth as possible. Think of your first coat of clear as like a glue. You're kind of putting a light coat on, light to medium coat, and you're letting it set. Give it a good 10 minutes to dry between coats. And then when you put your second coat on, it has something to adhere to, which gives you less risks of running the clear. And you can also straighten out any dryness from your first coat with your second coat of clear. Now, a lot of people think that orange peel comes from the clear coat only. It doesn't. It also comes from your base coat. So basically, you're going to start with a sealer. If you put your sealer on real dry and orange peeled, it's going to continue through the whole paint job. You're going to have that in the end. If you can get your sealer and your base to lay down really flat, your clear is going to lay down flat, which is going to minimize your orange peel. You're always going to get orange peel no matter what you do. It's just how smooth you can get it to minimize wet sanding and buffing. So at the end of the day, you're better off spending an extra hour in the spray booth than you are spending 6 hours wet sanding and buffing. So the more time you take spraying the paint, prepping it, getting it ready, and getting it to lay down as flat as physically possible is going to save you in the end, because I don't know very many people that really like to wet sand and buff for days. I know I don't like to do it, so I always try to do my best to lay it out as flat as possible. So all right, I'm gonna let this set for about another 5 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer, and we'll put the last coat of clear on. It's done. It's been sitting for about 10 minutes. You can see how nice and smooth that is. And if you're wondering, the inside of this is not bare metal. This hoop was actually chromed when it came with the car, and the hoop was chromed. They did not want it chromed. They wanted it painted body color. So I sanded it down, epoxy primered it, and we painted it body color. So that's why the inside looks like it's bare metal, but it's actually chrome. So I didn't paint inside there because nobody ever sees it. So all right, guys, that's going to end this video. Just wanted to get these couple parts fixed, wrapped up, so that tomorrow I can work on the window, passenger window, get that installed, get the fuzzy strips on the windows, and then might be out of stuff to do again until we get it running, and I get a couple more parts. So all right guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you're seeing, please like, subscribe, share, hit the thumbs up. Any questions or comments, feel free to ask. Other than that, I will see you guys later. Thanks.